Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, everybody. This is Ron Tyler reporting, your host here on Emergency Management Associates. We want to welcome everybody here to the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody here to our channel. This is the third program on this new channel that we have. For those of you that have joined us and may not know, we got booted from our other channel due to a hijack of our Gmail account, which took place last Tuesday. Then we had and decided to make a new channel, which we did, and we were afraid that might get taken down by the platform, but we're taking our chances on that because I believe it was the original hijack of our Gmail account that did it. We're still working with Google, or trying to work with Google, to try to get our channel back. I hope that happens. Anyway, meantime, we're here on this channel. It's called RLT NSPD, and it's soon going to be RLT NSPD EMA or Emergency Management Associates as soon as I can get that up and running. I've been very busy during the last few days, in fact the last week, and I'm here to tell you that it's been a toil coming back here, really bad. Right before I was to go on at 6 p.m., I had a complete shutdown of my Firefox browser. I lost all my information from my program, and I had to literally reboot everything here so I could be on the air tonight. I have a jam-packed program waiting for you tonight. First off, I'm going to tell you about something that happened earlier, okay? Just a bit earlier. This was a hydrogen fluoride spill. A hydrogen fluoride spill near Tennessee, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi border area. This chemical spill was reported in DeSoto County Saturday. Crews worked throughout the night to clean up the affected areas. The DeSoto County government provided an update yesterday. They stated that action has been taken to neutralize pH levels of the creek water, and it has returned to normal parameters. Okay? Can we trust that? I don't know. I don't know if we can trust that. Honestly, there have been too many events or incidents that have happened pouring chemicals into creeks, streams, rivers, and into the soil. Okay? That's what I'm going to say about this. The DeSoto County government provided, along with their update, quote, "The Mississippi Department of Environmental Equality is satisfied with the progress. And as you can see, there was an earthen dam built so as not to leak any more chemical into the water." There was a possibility that that happened. So they erected a dam here, right there. Okay? But the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, the MSDEQ, is satisfied with the progress. So the dam is currently being removed to allow for the creek to return. To allow the creek flow to return. Consensus among the environmental companies and the MSDEQ state that there is no indications of any contamination of drinking water, both for the city water system or any private water wells in the areas along the creek. Okay? Again, can anybody trust what's going on? As a precaution, community air quality survey testing was completed with no measurable detection obtained. Air monitoring will continue on the site throughout the cleanup. Cleanup efforts will continue on the site at SXP for several more days, and crews will continue to assess nearby creeks and waterways for any impact from the spill, and mitigation efforts and protective measures will remain in place to prevent any further contamination. The DeSoto County government said the spill was caused by a fire at Schultz Extruded Products. Schultz Extruded Products. What does that sound like? Plastics. Plastics. They're located at McCracken Road in Hernando, Mississippi. The fire caused a container that held hydrofluoric acid to leak. Hydrofluoric acid to leak. It resulted in chemical leaking into the Muscuna Creek. The M-U-S-S-A-C-U-N-A Creek, Muscuna Creek. Officials said the Hernando Fire Department quickly responded to the fire. Crews at the scene said there is no danger to drinking water or residents who live downstream or upstream from the creek. Residents are being asked to avoid the creek in the area as crews work to remediate the area and remove the earthen dam that they placed there. The Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, DeSoto County EMA, the emergency management community there, and the environmental remediation are working to clean up the spill and any damage. Now, what this gets into. I'm not even going to mention it. Okay, I'm not even going to mention the name of this supposed group. I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is the group that I'm going to be talking about. Okay? These people say the hydrofluoric acid, again, hydrofluoric acid, is created when hydrogen fluoride is dissolved into water. So the hydrofluoric acid is what leaked after the fire. Okay? It leaked into the water and became hydrogen fluoride. Okay? Hydrogen fluoride. Hydrogen fluoride is a compound used to make refrigerants and herbicides and pharmaceuticals, high-octane gasoline, aluminum, plastics, electrical components, and fluorescent light bulbs. Symptoms of hydrogen fluoride exposure include irritation of the eyes, the nose, the respiratory tract, at high levels or in combination with skin contact. It can cause death from irregular heartbeat or fluid buildup in the lungs. That's according to that group right here. That's according to this group right here. Hydrofluoric acid is the acid that can dissolve human flesh. Okay? Someone on another channel here on YouTube, okay, someone said there that it was a chemical that can dissolve human bodies, which is not correct. Hydrofluoric acid cannot dissolve human bodies. However, it can cause great harm to human flesh. On its own, it is one of the most powerful acids known. Hydrofluoric acid is an acid that has been used. Okay? Hydrochloric acid is the acid that is used to dissolve human remains, not damage human flesh. There's two different acids here. This is hydrofluoric acid. Okay? It can't dissolve human bodies. but hydrochloric acid could. Okay? On its own, it's one of the most powerful acids known. This person that was on this other channel, in the chat, in the comments section below this man's video. Again, this man, among others, have made outlandish statements when they don't know exactly what exactly went on. Okay? They blow things up out of proportion, and that's where this came from. But a person in the comments below this person's video said this. He said that he works with acid regularly, hydrochloric, sulfuric, and nitric mostly, but not hydrofluoric. Okay, he works with hydrochloric and sulfuric and nitric, but not hydrofluoric that we just talked about. He had heard that it dissolved human bodies. In fact, while it causes some damage to flesh, it is nowhere near the best acid for dissolving bodies. That would probably be sulfuric or nitric acid. Sulfuric or nitric acid. That is not what went into the creek. He said that he can attest to the effect of those acids if accidentally brought into contact with the skin. God bless rubber gloves. But apparently the best dissolver of the human body is lye, L-Y-E, caustic soda, aka capital N, small a, capital O, capital H, NaOH. It's highly alkaline instead of acidic. Highly alkaline instead of acidic. That's the difference. Now, we've all heard of train derailments, literally all over. Before the derailment in Ohio, there had been 4 train derailment accidents already in this year. The Ohio derailment happened on February 3rd. Already this year there have been 4 train derailments. Since then, there was one in South Carolina, there was one in Detroit that I'm showing you here, there was one in California, and guess what happened today? There was one here in North Carolina. One here in North Carolina. This happened just up the road from me, literally, in a place called Conifer, North Carolina. Conifer, North Carolina. I think I might have a video, or not a video, but a picture of this, if I can find it here. You guys would just give me a second here. I thought I had it here. Doggone it. Maybe I don't. Anyway, folks, all it was a 3-car train derailment. The cars were what they called hopper cars. They're an open-topped car. They're usually lower to the ground. The top, from the top to the bottom of the car, might be 4 feet. Literally. A low-lying car of a train. And all it does, sometimes you'll see coal cars, okay? Those hoppers on the train carry coal. They carry all sorts of things. In this case, it was grain. 4 hopper cars, open-topped railroad cars, carrying grain, derailed just up the road from me today. 4 train cars derailed. So now we have 5 train derailments, before the February 3rd event. Then we had Ohio, we've had Detroit, we've had South Carolina, and what else? The California train derailment. So we've had now 5 train derailments this month alone. 5 train derailments this month alone. That tells me something. Okay? It should tell everybody something. Okay? I have a real problem with this. Okay? Isaiah's granny is asking for her hammer. I'm going to give you a hammer. Okay? Isaiah's granny is there. I'm going to give our buddy Don Patoka another moderator. Okay? Don Patoka's getting it. Kimberly Hopkins. Okay? You're going to get a moderatorship also. Okay? We appreciate each of you. Okay? I love and care about all of you guys. Okay? I care and love each and everybody here. All of you make my day, literally. Okay? All of you make my day. You guys are what make me sing. Literally. I want to tell you that. You guys make me sing. You lift my spirits and everything here. I love each and every one of you here. I love our moderators. Okay? When I see Scooter Pie, I'm going to give her a moderatorship also. I appreciate all of you here. Kimberly Hopkins, you're welcome. You're welcome. We have a great mod squad. Damon Catman says mod squad. Yes, we have a great mod squad. And I love each and every one of you personally. You guys are awesome. Ruth St. John says, we love you too. And I appreciate that. But anyway, we had 4 train derailments at the beginning of the year. The 5th one on February 3rd, and we've had 4 since. That's insane. 9 train derailments. Actually, 9 train derailments already this year, and it's not quite the end of February yet. That's tomorrow. What else are we going to see? Okay? What else are we going to see? I have issues with it. Again, the Detroit train derailment, and it's not over yet. It's far from being over. Okay? You all know about the train derailment in Ohio. I spoke about it. And more than just once or twice. I think I did 3 shows on the Ohio train derailment. And this is the 5th. Or the 4th show I'm doing on it. Okay? I want to make it clear what happened. That's why we're talking about it. I want to make it very clear about what happened. Okay? Now, there was a woman that went there last Thursday to Ohio. Erin Brockovich. The real Erin Brockovich. The day prior, President Trump went there. And it wasn't until President Trump went there that we got any kind of federal aid to go there to help those citizens in Palestine, Ohio. And President Trump brought food, he brought water, and he brought other things to help with the people there. And he spoke to not just the leaders, but to residents there as well. It takes a former president going there, who is now running for president again, in order to get things going. And Erin Brockovich had already said that she was going to be there Thursday, which she did. It's not over. this whole thing in Ohio is not over at all. Okay? Aaron Brockovich is calling for more answers after the Ohio train derailment. So many unanswered questions, she said. Aaron Brockovich is some part of somebody's mind, is someone that is not that well known, but she is. There was a movie about Erin Brockovich in the 90s with her name. She is a well-known environmental advocate, and she's adding her voice to the growing chorus of those that are calling for answers in Ohio after Norfolk Southern train derailed in Ohio earlier this month. Now, guess what? The train that derailed today just north or east of me in Conifer, North Carolina, was also a Norfolk Southern train. There's been three, count them, three Norfolk Southern train derailments. Three of them. Okay? Three of them. In Ohio, there were 38 cars on the 151 car train that derailed. 38 cars derailed, including several cars containing chemicals like vinyl chloride, vinyl acrylate, benzene. I'm going to talk about benzene in a few minutes. Eventually, the decision was made to evacuate people within a 2-mile radius and later a 3-mile radius, and to do a controlled release burn of the vinyl chloride. Again, what did they do? After the fire first happened when the train derailed, that was caused by a steel wheel on one of the cars that became overheated and turned literally to fire itself. It got orange hot, not just red hot, but orange hot. And on the train cars, there are four wheels on one end of the car and four wheels on the other. Those four wheels constitute what they call a truck. When that wheel got red hot, orange hot, very hot, causing a fire, got red hot, what happened? That whole truck got orange hot as well. All four wheels and the truck attached to the bottom of the car got orange hot and caught fire. So the car that caught fire was also one that derailed and knocked other cars over. A total of 38 cars derailed. Now, the car that got red hot, the car that was already on fire 20 minutes prior to the derailment in Ohio, that car was not responsible for the derailment. Okay? They might want to call that the car was responsible. It wasn't. Someone sabotaged the track. I will stand by that. Every time we have had a train derailment, including that one that was up in Northern California. Remember we spoke about that the other day, where 4 cars derailed. One was sitting on the trucks like this, slanted like this. Well, 2 of them were. 4 cars derailed there. Union Pacific was pulling those cars. 4 cars derailed there. Nothing was spilled out of those cars. But every time there's a train derailment, it happens to be the fault of the tracks that it was traveling on. Each track has two steel rails, right? One on one side of the track and one on the other. When those rails get separated by any kind of distance, whether it's pulled out or pulled too far close to each other, the train cars will derail. And I believe that that is what caused the initial derailment. Someone tampering with the tracks. Okay? I can bet money on it. I can bet money on it. And then the other thing is this. Renee is asking, why did not the hot box detector go off? I believe someone tampered with that as well. Because yes, there is a hot box detector on all trains. On all trains. Now the engineer that was driving that train said it did go off. But I don't believe it went off in time. And when it did go off, the engineer tried to stop the train. But 151 cars, and each of the cars weighing about 40 tons, yes, the cars themselves weigh about 40 tons apiece. You try stopping a train that's going about 55 to 60 miles per hour on a set of steel rails, and each car has eight steel wheels. 8 steel wheels. And you're trying to stop a train with steel wheels on a steel track weighing 40,000 pounds apiece. 40,000 pounds apiece. 151 cars. They can't stop on a dime. Usually it takes 2 to 3 miles to stop a train. 2 to 3 miles to stop a train, give or take a mile or two. It could even possibly take farther than that. Okay? But that's what happened. When the hot box detector finally detected the fire, it wasn't soon enough. And the engineer tried to stop the train. But then, what happened? I believe the rails were tampered with. And by that time, it was too late. And there was a train derailment. Kimberly Hopkins is asking a question in chat. It's a valid question. We wonder how often those trains are inspected. I'm going to tell you this. Not often enough. Not often enough. And I personally, because I've seen what they call the maintenance of way crews, which are the ones that inspect the rails and inspect the rail bed, where the spikes are put down into the wood underneath the steel rails to hold the rails in place. They take care of all that. They make sure that the rock, it's called ballast in train terms. They make sure there's enough rock to hold the wooden piles in place, to make sure they're secure so the track will remain secure as well. There are not enough inspections done. That's number one. But to have somebody tamper with the rails is a completely different story. Isaiah's granny says not nearly enough, and I agree. I totally agree. Yes, there are records. There are records done. There are inspections done, but quite honestly, not enough, because I've seen it. I've seen it. Now, besides that, we know how often trains have to run. That's one of the reasons that the inspections are not done often enough. Because America, the United States, and I believe even Canada, relies on trains to pull cargo across the countries. We cannot get enough semi-truck trailers to pull cargo around our highways to various stores and everywhere else. Trains, for the most part, carry about 60% of cargo across the United States. Then, even then, the cargo is put on flatbed trucks, tractor trailers, semis, and hauled across to various spots. Okay? The countries rely on the railroads. Okay? That's the other issue. Richard Smith says the old technology is being phased out. It seems like. Yes, it is. The old technology is being phased out. And in fact, okay, let me tell you about another secret you may not know about. A lot of trains do not even have engineers anymore. They're run through satellite radio signals. There's a central control tower in a lot of places, including Salt Lake City, Denver, Nebraska, and various other cities along the way. Wherever there's rail travel, you can see these control towers. They're not like huge aircraft control towers, but they're control towers. And those engineers in those control towers are the ones that are actually running the trains via satellite radio signals. That's another issue. In the case of Ohio, yes, there was a human engineer on board. And there was a conductor on board to make sure, one, that the cars remain coupled, and two, to make sure the systems of the train are operating. On the back of the train, remember the day, a long time ago, we had cabooses on the train. The cabooses were the end car on every train. That's not the case anymore. The final component in the control of the train is what they call an end of train device. An end of train device, an ETD. That ETD is an electronic box that they attach to the back car of the train, every train. It also feeds signals to the control cab, the engine of the train, the locomotive, where the engineer is, to make sure that everything is operating fine at the back of the train. Okay? That EDT is very important. That ETT is very important. Now, I'm going back to Ohio here. 38 cars on the 151-car train derailed, including several cars containing chemicals like vinyl chloride. Chemicals, plural. It wasn't just one chemical. Eventually, like I said before, a decision was made to evacuate people within a total of a 3-mile radius around the train derailment, because there were toxic fumes even from the very beginning, leaving the area of the train derailment. Okay? Now, I have not yet gotten to my material safety data sheet book. I told you it is in one of my backpacks here, and I do have it. But on that data sheet book, there is a sheet for every chemical. Every chemical that's transported by train, cars, planes, boats, anywhere. Anywhere. There is a chemical sheet, a data sheet for every chemical. It says what that chemical is made out of. It tells what temperature that chemical might burn, what temperature it might freeze, and what components there are to the chemical that would cause a chemical reaction, including fire and heat. It tells people. Every data sheet tells everybody what it can do if exposed to the air, the environment, and to humans or animals. It tells also on the data sheet how to dispose of it if necessary. How to dispose of the chemical if necessary. That was not done. I promise you that was not done. The data sheet was not followed whatsoever. None of it. None of it. Sleeping Volcano is saying that there are 3 more oil refineries that have been set on fire. Oh yeah. By the way, Sleeping Volcano, you're back as a moderator too, and thank you very much. Sleeping Volcano has been one of our moderators from the beginning, and I care about her as much as anybody. Okay, I love everybody here. Everybody that's here as a part of the EMA family is cherished, and I appreciate each one of you. I appreciate everybody, or I wouldn't be here. Getting back to this train, the decision was made to do a controlled release and burn the vinyl chloride and the other chemicals that were on board those rail cars. Which rail cars are we talking about? We're talking about those great big cylinders that you see gasoline and other chemicals in. Okay? What they decided to do was dig a very deep, long trench. A very deep, long trench. And then to explode a hole in the rail car, in the tank. To explode a hole in the bottom of the tank to release the chemical into the trench that they had dug. So they blew a hole in the tanks. That in of itself caused a fire. Then the chemicals in the trench, they set fire to those as well. Okay? And setting fire to those chemicals, they said it was a controlled release. A burn of the vinyl chloride and whatever other chemicals were there. As I said in a previous program about a week and a half ago, parts of these chemicals includes a chemical called benzene. Benzene. Don't forget that chemical, benzene. Also, don't forget another chemical compound called dioxins. Dioxins. Don't forget those. Okay? Now, since the residents of this small town of East Palestine, they've been exposed to all these chemicals in the air, in the ground water, in the soil, everywhere. And it's not just the people that live in East Palestine. Now this has spread over a huge area of thousands of miles because the breeze took those chemicals that you saw in those huge clouds that resulted from that train derailment. Okay? They took those huge clouds that you saw there. Let me find there it is. See that? This was just the beginning of the fire. Okay? This was just the beginning of the fire. When they disposed of the chemicals, there was a huge black plume that went almost straight up in the air. And yes, I should have copied a picture here to show you. Those of you who were there during the previous two settings where I showed these clouds, the huge black plume from the burning of the chemicals in the trenches. Okay? That's where it got really bad. But remember dioxins and remember benzene. Okay? Those are the two most dangerous chemicals that they are not testing for. Since this happened, the residents of Palestine and other cities and towns are reporting ailments like burning throats, skin rashes, and bronchitis, and other ailments such as nausea and delirium, and even clouded vision, and dead animals. Did you know that there's over 46,000 dead animals as a result of what happened in Palestine, Ohio? 46,500 dead animals. And they said the air is safe? Think about that. Think about that. Last week, I showed you a meeting where the mayor of Palestine and the EPA administrator, Mr. Regan, R-E-G-E-A-N, not Reagan, but Regan, and one other person was there from the government. Remember what we said about government? If a person from the government knocks on your door and said, "We're here to help you," run. Run. Okay? Unreal. Unreal. But they went to this home of the mayor. It was the governor. It was Governor DeWine. That was the other official, Governor DeWine. The three of those people, the mayor, EPA administrator, and Governor DeWine, were there. They poured themselves glasses of water from the water tap in that kitchen of that home. And then they toasted each other. And then they drank the water from those glasses. That water came from the wells in the town where the mayor and other people said that the wells in Palestine, Ohio, where they pulled the water from, were encased in steel. Really? How far down into the ground do you go with plates of steel to make sure your water supply is not going to be contaminated? How far? How far do those aquifers go? And how much water are in those aquifers, those wells? They poured contaminants in those trenches, and those chemical contaminants leached into the soil and have leached into the water table. And yet, those three people, those three politicians, toasted each other with water pulled from the wells and brought into that home. They toasted each other with water. They have not been checked for benzene or dioxins. They're testing for vinyl chloride and vinyl acrylate, and I think one other chemical. They're not testing for benzene and dioxins. Officials, including the Environmental Protection Agency, have said that they have not recorded any harmful levels of chemicals in the air, and local and state officials have said that the town's water supply is safe to drink from. And yet the chemicals have leached into the soil and have also leached into the water, including the streams and creeks and the Ohio River. the Ohio River. And I said 43,500 animals have died. It's 43,700 animals have died. 43,700 animals have died. Norfolk Southern has also removed 15,000 pounds of contaminated soil and over 1 million gallons of water. 1 million gallons of water. Guess where they took the water, and guess where they took the soil? Can you say Michigan and Texas? And Michigan and Texas states are furious. They were not adequately told what was going on. The states where those chemicals were took are sitting there, not being touched until the states and the federal government can come up with an adequate solution of what to do with it. Erin Brockovich, let me put her picture back up here. Erin Brockovich visited there on Thursday. Okay, it's not over. She addressed residents of East Palestine at a town hall on Friday, saying that she had seen the same runaround in every community that she has gone to since making national headlines in the 1990s for suing a utility provider for contaminating Hinckley, California's drinking water. If you remember the movie, Hinckley, California had the chemicals that contaminated their drinking water. And Erin Brockovich fought like a bear to get them aid. Brockovich said that she understands the fear and the frustration of the residents of East Palestine. They're worried because they've got coughs and respiratory problems, and that is just the beginning. She said there are so many unanswered questions, and they know this isn't the last of this conversation. Brockovich added that she would advise residents to stay tuned to themselves, to their bodies, and their environment. This is not the first time Brockovich has addressed the situation in Ohio. On February 17th, 2 weeks after the derailment, she questioned the decision to allow residents to return home that soon. Reading a letter dated February 10th from the EPA to the Norfolk Southern that said chemicals were known to have been or continue to be released into the air, the surface soils, and to the surface water. You saw that senator, we showed the video, you saw that senator that leaned over the creek with a large stick, a big huge long stick, and stirred up the soil in the bottom of that creek, and immediately the chemicals that had been on the surface of the water had settled down into the soil at the bottom of the creek, and he stirred them up, and you saw that oily, shiny substance on the top of the water. It looked like a rainbow. Okay? The chemicals are still there, yet they say they've removed all those thousands and hundreds of thousands of pounds of soil. That's not enough. The entire area is contaminated, and yes, this still is an existing emergency. How many times have the soil and water of different places around this country been contaminated, and people have been sick and died as a result of that contamination? What is it going to take to make sure that justice is done here? including the evacuation of East Palestine, Ohio, and barricades put up so that nobody comes in there until that area is completely cleared of the contamination in the soil and the water table. What is it going to take? The EPA told Norfolk Southern that the chemicals were known to have been or continue to be released into the air, the surface soils, and the surface water. That was February 10th. On the 17th, they allowed people back into the town. 7 days after the EPA and even EPA Secretary said that everything was clear and it was okay to return to their homes. Really? Evacuated East Palestine residents were told it was safe to return on February 8th. 2 days before that letter came out from the EPA that said that the chemicals were still being released into the air, the water, and the soil. And yet the residents were told that they could come back. Sleeping Volcano is saying that the illnesses and diseases are going to show up for years. And that's exactly it. Last week, I read you the information on the MSDS sheets. It said anywhere from 100 years to 1,000 years. 100 years to 1,000 years. Aaron Brockovich says there is so much confusion reading something like this. I will tell you, I would certainly feel uncomfortable and not safe. Not safe, she said. Soil and water from the Ohio train wreck was taken to Michigan and Texas jurisdictions without warning. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said 4,832 cubic yards of soil have been removed from the ground in East Palestine. That is the soil that was around the train wreck. That was the soil around the train wreck. And yet, the rails where the train derailed are still in place, meaning that that soil underneath those rails has not been touched. That soil is still contaminated, ladies and gentlemen. That soil is still contaminated. Okay? Governor DeWine said that there was 6 truckloads that were on their way to Michigan. Really? Did they adequately put covers on those trucks to make sure every piece of soil, every licking piece of dirt did not escape those trucks? Otherwise, those trucks spread the contamination, no matter how small a piece of soil might have been, still carrying contamination to other places. Officials in Texas and Michigan are complaining now that they didn't receive adequate warnings, didn't receive any warning. The contaminated water and soil from the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, would be shipped into their jurisdictions for disposal. They got no warning. So guys in Texas, you people in Texas and you people in Michigan, guess what? You're now being exposed to what happened in East Palestine, Ohio. About 2 million gallons of firefighting water from the train derailment site were expected to be disposed in Harris County, Texas. with about 500,000 gallons already there. This is according to the county's chief executive. On Saturday, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, put the process on hold. Secretary Regan put the process on hold. Now there's also a judge involved. The judge said this: "It's a very real problem. We were told Wednesday that the materials were coming, only to learn Thursday they've been here for a week. The materials had already been shipped and had been in Texas for a week." This was according to Judge Lena Hidalgo this past Thursday. According to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, whom I don't respect, but according to this Congresswoman, federal authorities, including the EPA, were also unaware of the transport coordinated between the train company and the Texas Molecular Company that was going to handle this until the Congresswoman started making calls. No one was aware of this until the Congresswoman started making calls. She said, quote, "I thought this was an issue that could not be tolerated. I went to work calling the White House secretaries. They did not know. And with their review, they put a pause and indicated no further disposal of the waste will happen without federal review." She said that's a big step forward. I'm going to say that's a small step. Jackson Lee is praising federal authorities for pausing the transport of contaminated water to Deer Park, Texas. "I never think you can be too safe, too concerned when you're dealing with toxic chemicals," she said. Contaminated soil from the derailment site is being taken to the U.S. Ecology Waste Disposal in Bellevue, Michigan, according to U.S. Representative Debbie Dingell of Michigan. She found out about it on Friday. Now there's one other element to this. And this is going to be an ongoing issue for a very long time. I want to introduce you to someone else here. Okay? This is a reporter for News Nation who's worked for News Nation for 10 years. He went to that media site where they held that great big huge committee, this huge town meeting, where the media was there and able to ask questions. Well, guess what happened? This man, Evan Lambert, was a reporter for News Nation itself here in the U.S. Been working for them for 10 years. Because he was asking too many questions, guess what? He was arrested for trespassing and resisting arrest charges. I saw the video. I'm not able to play it for you, but I saw the video, and I'm an ex-cop. I'm retired. At no point in time did he resist arrest. 2 cops took him to the ground, one of them being a male and the other a female. They took him to the sidewalk, escorted him out of the building where the town meeting was being held and the reporters were at. He was taken out of there for asking too many questions, and the police escorted him out, put him face down on the sidewalk, got his arms and hands behind him, and handcuffed him. I saw the process of the arrest. At no time was he resisting arrest, and yet they charged him with resisting arrest. Last Wednesday, the trespassing and resisting arrest charges were dismissed against News Nation reporter Evan Lambert. He'd been arrested at that press conference. What the heck were the cops thinking? Guess what? An Ohio State Attorney General, David Yost, announced last Wednesday, quote, "My office has reviewed the relevant video and documentary evidence and is dismissing the charges against Evan Lambert as unsupported by sufficient evidence. Unsupported by sufficient evidence. While journalists could conceivably be subject to criminal trials for trespassing in some situations, this incident was not one of them. The reporter was lawfully present at the press conference called by the governor of the state, Governor DeWine. His conduct was consistent with the purpose of the event and his role as a reporter, according to Attorney General Yost. Lambert had been charged with resisting arrest, a second-degree misdemeanor, and criminal trespassing, a fourth-degree misdemeanor. According to News Nation, Lambert was doing a live report while Ohio Governor Mike DeWine was speaking about the cleanup efforts following the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, prompting law enforcement to ask Lambert to be quiet. Lambert was asked to be quiet by law enforcement, not Governor DeWine. News Nation said that Lambert concluded the segment before being asked to leave the room. Multiple videos from the incident showed the officers arresting and subsequently forcefully removing Lambert. They had both of his arms, one officer on one side of him and the other officer on the other, with their arms around his, forcing him out of the room through glass doors, and then putting him to the ground on the sidewalk outside the room of the press conference. Unreal, guys. Mr. Lambert offered the following statement: "I'm still processing what was a traumatic event for me in the context of a time when we were hyper aware of how frequently some police interactions with people of color," yes, he was a black man, "how frequently some police interactions with people of color can end up in worse circumstances. That is not lost on me," he said. At the time, as a journalist who has spent more than a decade covering crime, courts, and more, and recently federal law enforcement, I have great respect for the officers who do their jobs daily with integrity, civil rights, justice, and the safety at the core of their mission. Governor DeWine's office said he did not see the incident but heard a disagreement, according to his press secretary. Regardless of the intent, arresting a journalist reporting at a press conference is a serious matter. Attorney General Yost said Ohio protects a free press under its Constitution, and state officials should remember to exercise a heightened level of restraint in using arrest powers. State officials should remember to exercise a heightened level of restraint in using arrest powers, unquote. Okay? Yes, Mr. Lambert was arrested, but subsequently unarrested and released from custody by what I believe are overzealous law enforcement officers from the state of Ohio. Okay? Now I want to tell you about another place, another time, this past weekend. Okay? I want to tell you about this. It's called Y12, a national security campus in Knoxville, near Knoxville, Tennessee. Okay? Something happened there this weekend that everybody needs to know about. There was a fire there. This fire at the the Y12 National Security Complex. You need to know what it is. It's a uranium processing facility in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. The fire was contained. Officials from the National Nuclear Security Administration said the fire at the Y12 complex started in a uranium processing area in Building 9212 on Wednesday last week at 9:14 a.m. Y12 communication manager Taz Painter said that he sent an email to Knoxville News. Okay? Now I'm going to give you some more information here. Okay? You need to know about what's going on. And I promised I would tell you. Okay? There's a lot more to this story. A lot more. A lot more that people were not even told about. Oh, please tell me I've got this. Ah, shoot. Oh, darn it. Just a second, let me see if I even have this. Darn it. Hold on a second, because I'm going to see if I can find this picture that I want to show you and you need to see. I hate it when this happens. Can't get it. They censored it. Man, that really ticks me off. They censored it. Doggone them. Hold on a second. I think there might be a way of pulling this out. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to do my best here. If I didn't think this was important, I wouldn't even try. But I think it's really important that everybody have the information that's here. I try to give you the best information I possibly can, with the clearest understanding of what has happened and what's going to happen. That's my job, and I take it very seriously. You're kidding me. Yeah, they censored me, all right. Okay, we're just going to go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead. There's no getting around the stupidity here. They censored me on it. And that's the way it goes. Alrighty. Anyway, there's two men that gave a press conference after this fire had been put out. Okay? The communications manager, Taz Painter, sent an email to Knox News. Several hundred employees from Building 9212 on this campus and others were evacuated. At 12:30 p.m., an update from Y12, the complex we're looking at here, stated that all evacuated workers were accounted for and no injuries or contaminations were found. No injuries or contaminations were found. Okay? That was a statement. Air monitors did not go off, which means there was no release of radioactive material, officials said. Officials said that they did not know what caused the fire. That is an ongoing investigation. And I went into and tried to find out if there was more information about the fire, and there's not. Now, there are two people here that I'm going to mention in the next few minutes. A spokesman from Y12, his name is Gene Patterson, said, "We are still in the process of figuring out exactly what that timeline is on and what happened this morning. There are no worries for community members, and there was no contamination because of the fire." Officials stressed other parts of Y12 are back to normal operations, according to officials. Now, that building number 9212, why is that so important? Whenever we have a complex by the government, whether it is a military reservation or other kind of government facility, each building has a number. Each building has a number. And the numbers almost sometimes don't make any sense. It's even like they gave the numbers to a child and told the child, oh, just drop a number here and drop a number there. Okay? This particular building has been around since World War II. Building 9212 is a large chemical processing facility that was completed in 1945 as a chemical recovery operation to recycle uranium. What is the Y12 nuclear complex? The Y12 National Security Complex manufactures parts for America's nuclear weapons, it stores nuclear materials, and it provides enriched uranium to the U.S. Navy. Y12 was Knoxville area's fourth largest employer in 2022 last year, with 7,800 employees total. On the day of this fire, Y12 issued the following statement, and we briefly talked about this last week. Appropriate precautionary actions have been initiated for Y12 employees. There is no off-site impact to the public as a result of this incident. The security complex has been in Oak Ridge since 1943, when the 811-acre Y-12 was built as part of the Manhattan Project. Where did that name come from? Why do we remember what the Manhattan Project is? Remember a movie? Consolidated Nuclear Security has operated Y-12 since previous contractor B&W was fired after anti-nuclear protesters broke into the facility in 2012. In October 2022, last year, it was announced that the National Nuclear Security Administration would extend the contract with Consolidated Nuclear Security to operate Y-12 after terminating its contract with a different company. Less than a month ago, officials celebrated the construction of a new fire station and an emergency operations center at the complex. They replaced buildings that had been built back in the 1940s. What happens in Building 9212? According to the August 2020 handout describing the facilities, Building 9212, and this is important, or I wouldn't even be talking about it, Building 9212 was completed in November 1945 to recycle uranium. It was the location of the first production of uranium metal at Y-12 and the earliest nuclear weapons production facility at Y-12. It continues to serve as one of the primary chemical processing and enriched uranium production facilities at Y-12. A new uranium processing facility slated for completion by the end of 2025 would allow the National Nuclear Security Administration to stop certain operations in Building 9212, which a government accountability report in 2020 called the oldest building with the highest nuclear security risk at the Y-12 National Security Complex, noting the building's design predates modern nuclear safety codes. In the interim years by the completion of UPF, these aids facilities at 9212 and associated structures will continue to be maintained for safe use. Repairs and modifications will continue to be required just to keep going until an appropriately designed facility can be constructed and made operational. The work is not to modernize Building 9212. The work is not to modernize Building 9212. That's not feasible and cannot be done. It is merely shoring up deteriorated aspects of the structure. Finally, Y-12 was not built a newly designed nuclear weapons or for well over 20 years. It was not built a newly designed nuclear weapons for over 20 years. The existing active nuclear weapons secondaries are brought back to Y-12 as needed for specific actions normally referred to as life extension programs. The enriched uranium from previously disassembled nuclear weapons is recycled as needed and is used as fuel for the nation's nuclear navy and research reactors, as down blending could be used in nuclear power reactors. Down blending. Remember those words. Down blending. Down blending. Okay? I think that's another important thing. Down blending. Remember that. Now I want to show you something else. This is a very small nuclear reactor. This is one of our nation's smallest nuclear reactors. Okay? Where did I get that picture? Yes, I got it off the internet. But I want to tell you this, that most people don't even know about. I think there's probably maybe 600 people, maybe 1,000 people that even know about these. This is the smallest nuclear reactor, literally. These are built there. There's presently a nuclear reactor in Denver, at the Denver Federal Center, and it's monitored by federal law enforcement and federal agencies over at the Denver Federal Center in Lakeside, Colorado. Okay? Anyway, back to Y-12. Y-12 is a far cry from what is less and less frequently thought of now as a bomb plant. Okay? It's a far cry from that. It has transitioned into a multifaceted, state-of-the-art national nuclear security enterprise. That's what it's being used for. I wanted to make clear what exactly is going on. Okay? I think everybody deserves to know that. Now, in regards to earthquakes, and volcanoes, okay, I think this is also necessary to talk about tonight. What I'm showing you is a blank seismogram. A blank seismogram from none else but Mount Lassen. Mount Lassen. Do you want to know how many blank seismograms we have? Here's another one from a completely different seismograph. The other was LCM. This is LDH. Blank. As I have explained on previous shows, each of these volcanoes here, Shasta and Lassen, have 11 seismographs that monitor the volcano. Guess what? Here's another blank one. This is LSI. Okay? The reason they put them out is because they have to release a seismograph. Okay? They have 11 seismographs there. Okay? These three are turned off. These three are turned off. Well, guess what? That's not good enough. Let me show you 4 others. Okay? Look at this. This is garbage. This is garbage. This is LEL. Seismograph LEL. Putting out garbage. Well, guess what? This is LRD doing the same thing. What they have done is they have copied one seismogram and posted it here and this one here. So we have 2. This is 3. This is LRR, showing you the exact same seismogram. It's garbage. It's trash. It does not mean anything. Okay? It doesn't show you tremors. It doesn't show you earthquakes. It doesn't show you magma coming into the magma chamber of this volcano. It doesn't show you squat. There's one other. This is LEM. Prior to a year and a half ago, this seismogram was very busy. Very, very busy. Showing earthquakes, showing tremors, and also showing large amounts of magma coming into this volcano. Again, this is Mount Lassen. Okay? Let me show you two seismograms showing you what is going on at Mount Lassen. This is one of them. This is seismograph LSH. LSH. Okay? Why am I showing you this? This is the northwest flank of the volcano. Okay? This comes from the northwest flank of the volcano. Look at the top of this. Let's start with that. Let's look at the top of this. Okay? What we're seeing here are tremors. A lot of tremors up on that top line. This came out yesterday. Yesterday, February 26th at 1400 hours, which is 2 p.m. yesterday. You can see tremors here and possible minor earthquakes, 2.0 and larger. But then, on the 1530 line that you see here on the left, that's 3:30 Pacific time yesterday. Okay? You can see a longer line here in blue, can't you? Guess what? That is at least a 3.0, 3.5 earthquake. Did USGS yesterday show this earthquake on the earthquake map? Not at all. Not at all. Look at these other tremors. These other tremors here were also not located on the USGS map. Okay? They weren't on the USGS map. Then, as we turned on to early evening, look at the amount of magma that we see coming into this magma chamber of the volcano. The thinner lines going to thicker lines, or thicker lines going into thinner lines. The thicker lines are more magma than the thinner lines. Okay? And it goes, these are magma infill signals. Magma infill signals. Okay? Sometimes there's not that much magma coming into the magma chamber of a volcano, and we have a thin line. Then the lines get thicker as more magma comes into the magma chamber. What about here? What about here starting about 1830 hours, 6:30 p.m.? You start to see thicker lines here, more and more magma pouring into the magma chamber here. Then, at 1930, more and more magma starts pouring into this volcano. This is normal. This is totally normal. Then more and more magma comes pouring into this volcano. It almost obliterates the white paper. Almost obliterates the white paper here. Okay? Then we have two red lines here. The red lines are computer generated to let the seismologist say, oh, you need to see this. So the seismologist will notice it and take note of it. That's what those red lines are. What that is, and if you look closely, let me bring this up and enlarge it for you. If you look closely, that is a steam signal. That's a steam signal. It's a vertical line with a curlicue on it. It's a steam signal. Steam is being released from this volcano. We've talked about steam releases before. 6 to 7% of magma is water. Water. When that big, huge cork in the volcano that gets hammered on by the magma from underneath, it develops fissures in it, doesn't it? The great big huge cork, the plug in the volcano, it's a lava rock. that solidified when the volcano was slowing down and stopped erupting the last time. Solidified into a great big huge volcanic plug, just like a cork in a wine bottle. Yet there's magma that's hammering up from underneath that plug. After so much pressure, that plug develops tiny holes in it. Small little holes, small little fissures in that lava plug, in that lava rock plug. And as it keeps hammering, those fissures get larger and larger, don't they? And in getting larger, it allows steam, water from the magma that's heated up by that super hot magma, anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 degrees, that water heats up and turns into steam, doesn't it? And that steam is released from those holes, those fissures in that lava plug, doesn't it? That's where we get the steam clouds that we've seen at the volcanoes. Okay? That's what happens. And this is a good example of steam being released from magma at this volcano. But I want to show you something else. Let me enlarge this seismogram again. Okay? Look at all that magma coming into the magma chamber. Then all of a sudden, literally all of a sudden, the magma goes away. We get these really thin lines again, don't we? That does not happen that way. It does not happen that way. What does happen is this, and I'm going to explain this for you so you understand it. The magma gets less and less, and you actually see the lines declining, getting smaller and smaller. But that is not the case here. What they did here, they turned down the seismograph. They turned down the seismograph where it was barely showing anything. Again, the magma infill signals would get less and less. The lines would get thinner gradually. That's not what happened here. They turned the seismograph basically off, where it's just barely showing anything. Okay? Volcanoes don't do that. They don't just shut down. They gradually get thinner. They don't shut down. Okay? You also don't get this. See those vertical lines here? That's trash. That is someone there turning down the seismograph. Okay? That's what that is. So they're trying to put out a seismogram showing a lot of activity, when in reality it shows the activity, then it also shows whoever's running the seismograph their craziness, because there's people that are going to see through it. Okay? There's people that are going to see through it. Now this is not the only seismograph that's showing activity here. Let me pull up another seismogram here. Okay? Like I said, there are 11 seismographs dotting the landscape around Mount Lassen. Okay? This is seismogram LDB. The seismograph is called LDB. This is on the southwestern part of the volcano, the southwestern flank, southwestern side of the volcano. Notice the other one I told you was on the northwestern side. So they're only showing the south and the northern side of the volcano on the west side. They're not showing you the north and the south. They're not showing you the east side of what's happening at this volcano. So they're not getting an accurate reading of what's going on, because they have put out how many blank seismograms here? 3. They put out another 4 false seismograms with trash. Then they come out and show 2 of them that actually have information on them. Okay? This one at LDB. Okay? I think this one's appropriate to show you here. Okay? Up at the top of this, again, this happened yesterday. It started recording yesterday. Okay? You notice at 1400 hours, that's 2 p.m. You see a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. You also see these holes in the lines. Someone turned off the seismograph for about a minute and then turned it back on. Okay? So far you see 3 holes here. Okay? The magma infill was happening. Magma does not just stop going into the volcano. In this particular event here, okay, at 1530 hours, that's 3:30, you see a reduction in magma. You see a reduction of magma coming into the volcanic chamber of Mount Lassen. The line gets thinner rapidly. It gets thinner rapidly, and at one point on the 1530 line, over towards the right, it bottomed out, then increased some. Again, what happened here? They basically turned it off and then turned it back up a little bit. Then they left that little bit on here. And that's what you're showing. You're showing little blips on these lines here. Little tiny blips for hours on end. From 1600 hours, which is 4 o'clock. Over on the left side, 1600 hours is 4 p.m. They turned down the seismograph at 4 p.m. yesterday. Over on the left-hand side, from 4 p.m. until midnight, you see midnight over here on the left side. From 4 p.m. till midnight, what do we have? 8 hours. 8 hours where the seismograph was not allowed to show us what was happening at Mount Lassen. Then, that wasn't the end of that. Let's go down to nearly 1:30 this morning. At 1:30 this morning, they started turning on the seismograph again. They started turning up the electronics on the seismograph. The lines get thicker, don't they? Visibly thicker starting at 1:30 this morning. So this seismograph was off for 10 hours. The seismograph was off for 10 hours. Then they turned the electronics up at 1:30 this morning. And you see what happened. They gradually turn it up and turn it up and turn it up. And what do we have here? Again, we have an incoming magma episode at Mount Lassen here. This is on the southwestern part of the volcano. The other seismogram that I showed you was on the northwestern flank of the volcano. Okay? So magma is pouring into this volcano during the morning hours today. Look at this. That's an awful lot of magma, doesn't it? At one point, it's almost totally encompassing what the paper was, white. There's almost no white at all. Okay? So they got the information that they wanted. Okay? They got the information that they wanted. Then they start turning it down some. And you can tell when they started turning it down. Again, the magma does not operate the way it normally would. the magma infill would get less and less and less gradually. Not like is shown here, where all of a sudden it almost goes away. Okay? You can see the manipulation of the machine. Okay? Mount Lassen is very active. Mount Lassen is the southern end of the Cascade Mountain Range, the southern end of the Cascade volcanoes. Okay? Tomorrow, Mondays are usually saved for talking about the Pacific Northwest, because I spent so much time talking about things of importance that happened last week and before that, and follow up on Ohio. We're going to continue following up on Ohio in the days and weeks to come. It's not over by a long shot, as I say. Okay? But tomorrow I'm going to talk about the Cascade volcanoes. I'm going to talk about what's going on in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's of absolute importance that we keep an eye on it. The Pacific Northwest is not going away. Now, just to give everybody an idea, a lot of people in this group here, a lot of people in this group on this program are part of the messenger groups that we all belong to. Not everybody, but a good share of people. We know for a fact what's going on. There's a weather group, guys. We have a weather group. And some others may notice that California is getting hammered by storms. Washington, Oregon, and Northern California is getting hammered by storms. But those storms don't end in Northern California. Central California, the Sierra Mountain Range going all the way down, and the Sierras don't go all the way down to San Diego, but the mountain range. The mountains continue down the center part of California, all the way down to the Salton Sea. Central California is getting hammered. Extreme snow is falling. A lot of snow is falling, meaning extreme travel conditions. Extreme travel conditions all over California. And where you're not getting snow, you're getting rain. This past weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the interior empire, okay? The interior empire of California, Southern California, got hammered. Victorville saw snow out in the desert. The desert areas of California got hammered. Totally hammered. People have died in auto accidents. People are being exposed to extreme cold weather. A lot of snow. Highways have closed down. Cars have been stuck in the snow. And that's going to happen for a long time now. It's going to happen for a long time. Times and Signs is telling us that there's 30, or the times we live in is saying 37 watching now. We have 49 people that have given us thumbs up. We appreciate that. We really appreciate that. We love each and every one of you. We appreciate everyone that is here that gives us support. We appreciate that. Now we have 50 thumbs up. 36 people still watching us. That's more than we've had here. And I appreciate that. In all aspects, this is a brand new channel. Okay? But I want to make sure that everybody is aware of what is going on around us. This is important. Kimberly Hopkins says here in Northern California, just below Redding, we got 8 inches of snow. 8 inches of snow is a lot, guys. In some places in the Sierra Mountains, they're getting 4 and 5 feet of snow. Feet, not inches. Feet. Okay? That's a lot of snow. Okay? That's dangerous. Hawks has said we had 3 emergency text messages regarding weather from Willamette, Cascade area. Oh yeah. I can imagine that that's going to continue for a while. There's another storm off the coast, and it's going to provide more rain along the coast and maybe some snow even along the coast. Okay? Everybody needs to know what's happening. Make sure that you're watching television. Make sure, if you can't have television, that you have one of the emergency radios that we have talked about. The emergency AM/FM weather radio. We've talked about them on the other channel. We're going to talk about them more. It's not going away. Everybody needs to be prepared. Times and Signs says I have extra channels, and that's great. Times and Signs says make me a mod. Okay? I think I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm going to make Times and Signs a mod. Okay? Times and Signs is also a mod here. We appreciate that. Guys, make sure you're paying attention to the weather. We've talked about having emergency preparedness car kits. We've talked about making sure that people in the car that you're in, making sure that everyone has adequate footwear in case you have to get out of the car in deep snow or very inclement weather or a flooding area. You don't need to wear high heels in snow. You need adequate footwear. Footwear, shoes, and boots with adequate tread on the bottom of them so you keep standing. You don't slip and slide and fall. You don't want to do that. You get hurt. If you're out in the weather shoveling, make sure you're adequately protected. In the cars, make sure you have food and water in your cars. Make sure you have jackets for everybody and blankets. Don't forget that. In the back of the car, make sure your car has an emergency kit, first aid kit, and adequate gas. Make sure you're not running out of gas, but also have extra oil. Make sure you have washer fluid for your wipers so you can see what's going on outside. Make sure you have an extra wiper or two in the back of the car in case one of your wipers gets stuck by ice, or stuck with the ice, and then breaks. Make sure you can adequately clear your windows. Make sure your car is in good working order. If you're going out for a trip anywhere, make sure you have your car checked before you start on your trip. Okay? Make sure of that. We're going to talk again about emergency preparedness kits of all kinds. Of all kinds. All that information we lost on that other channel when they took it down. I'm hoping to fight and get it back. I hope. Anyway, guys, make sure you're taking care of yourselves and your families and those that you care about. Even making sure you have kitty litter in case you get stuck on the side of the road or sand. I remember when I used to live in North Dakota, we had a bag of sand in the back of the car, whether it was in the back part of a station wagon or the back part in the trunk of my father's Ford LTD. Guys, make sure you have everything. Make sure you have everything. Okay? I'm not saying this to just beat my gums. I'm very serious. Make sure you're adequately prepared for whatever you may face. Otherwise, you're going to lose your life. This is not going away. It's not going away. This kind of weather can stick around through April. I've seen huge snowstorms and blizzards happen on March 10th, on March 15th, on March 21st in Denver. Okay? Please be careful. Watch where you're going. If you have really bad weather, stay home. Don't go anywhere. In this day and age, people can work from home in a lot of cases. Don't risk your lives. Don't risk your lives. This is important. Okay? I'm not here to beat my gums, but I want you to be safe. Okay. Sleeping Volcano says, I can't move my SUV. I've lost my four-wheel drive. I'm so sorry about that. You guys in Colorado have hard times. This snowstorm that's coming from Washington, Oregon, and California, it's going to be, I'm serious, it's going to be in Idaho and Utah, and then even down into New Mexico, Colorado, Montana, and Wyoming. And then it's going to proceed east, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. And it's going to go east. And then, for the most part, the storm is going to continue east. It's going to go through the Ohio River Valley, out into Indiana, and then it's going to go northeast. It's going to stay northeast, and for the most part, where I live, we're not going to see any of it. If we see any of it, it's just rain. Literally rain. Today we got some light rain here. We have not yet seen snow. Last year I reported on this channel that we had 18 inches of snow at one point. We've had no snow at all. Not any this year. Not any this year. Make sure you have adequate supplies. Adequate supplies. Now, folks, before the end of the evening, I always end on a positive note. I've told you about a lot of negativity, about a lot of things that are happening that you all need to know about to save your lives. The last few minutes here, I end with a devotional for those of you that haven't been on this channel. Linda Hudson is here. She says, I've watched Ron for years. I usually do not comment. Thank you for being here, Linda. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Also, before I get started on my devotional, I want to thank you all for being here, number one. Please share this program with everybody you know. Please encourage your family and extended family, your neighbors and your friends, people you care about, the people you work with, and even the people you associate on social media with. Tell them about this channel. If you see people that were on the other channel that we had, invite them here. Pass this information on. Don't let it just die here with us. Pass it on. We had nearly 25,000 subscribers. We were within 35 people of being 25,000 subscribers before they did it to us. Well, we're back. Okay? I want to leave you with this idea before we leave. This comes from Hebrews chapter 8 in the New Testament. Okay? Verse 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Who serve unto the example and the shadow of heavenly things. Okay? Let me go back. Let me go back to verse 1. I want you to get a little history here of what we're talking about. Christ offered himself as a sacrifice for our sins. God promised to make a new covenant with Israel. In verse 1, now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. A minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle which the Lord pitched, and not a man. Verse 3, for every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. Wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. Now in verse 5, who serve unto the example and the shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern shewed to thee in the mount. Moses got the instructions for the tabernacle from Jesus Christ on the mount. Verse 6, but now he hath obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is a mediator of a better covenant, the covenant with the people of Israel, which was established upon better promises. The covenant, the promise. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second covenant. The first was not flawless or faultless. Verse 8, for finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Two houses. And verse 9, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant. The children of Israel broke the first covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. Then in verse 10, I'm going on through verse 13 here, I decided. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After these days, saith the Lord, I will put my laws into their minds, and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people, and they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. For in that he saith, boy, did I mess that up. In verse 13, in that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. God made a second covenant with all of us, the remnants of the house of Israel. We made a covenant that we would return back to God in heaven. We made a covenant. We made a promise before we even came here. We came to this earth to gain a body and to gain experiences. And we promised the Lord, Jesus Christ, and our Heavenly Father that we would return to them after we left here. That's our promise, our covenant. Let's make sure that we live up to that covenant that we made to the Lord. A new and everlasting covenant of God. May you all remember this. May we all remember who we are. Children of God. each and every one of us. I love you very much, guys. I do. Please, guys, if you will, please remember what we've told you. Also, we don't have Super Chat here yet because we don't have enough subscribers. The more subscribers we have, the better off this channel will be. So invite everybody here. If you want to donate to our program, do so with Venmo and with PayPal. Or you can also send donations to our P.O. Box. P.O. Box 422, Valdese, Valdese, North Carolina. Zip code is 28690. We appreciate and love each and every one of you. I hope to get our profile back. I hope to get the old channel back. But right now, we're working with this. We appreciate your donations that help keep us on the air, literally. We appreciate and love each and every one of you. Now, guys, I hope and pray that the Lord will bless you. To bless you with the things that you stand in need of. We're all going through a very hard time. Politics and the nature of things are taking us down. We want to stay on our feet. We want to make sure we survive everything going on. Be prepared. Be prepared. That's all I can say. Be prepared. Take care of yourselves and your families. Those are the people that are most responsible to you, and you them. Take care of each other and love each other. That's what this whole world is about. Being servants of God and taking care of each other. I love you all very much. You guys mean the world to me. I take care of my family and the ones I care about, and that's why we're here. God be with you. God bless you. May God be with you until we meet again. We will see you around the corner. Good night, everybody. Take care of each other. See you soon. God bless.